My name is Elaine and welcome to my channel. I am a teacher and an artist and I just love to paint. So I'm starting off this video how I ended my last one. I actually finished this painting in my last video and then I realized, it's not quite so finished. I need to just paint the edges. So I like to do this with all my paintings. Sometimes I put tape on to help me paint a bit more neatly. Sometimes I don't. I actually feel like I would have been fine without the tape, but because the colour is so light at the bottom part of the painting, I was a bit hesitant. I really liked how this turned out. I think it looks quite dark in the video, but it's actually really nice purple, and I think it goes really well with the colours of this still life painting. Summer is coming to a close, and as a teacher, I'm actually back to work already, but these last few clips are from last week, and I was really trying to make the most of the last few sunny days in Ireland. We had a bit of a heat wave. So I was in London 2 weeks ago on a trip, and I got this notebook from Notting Hill Bookshop. I had never been to Notting Hill before, and let me tell you, it is such a beautiful area. I really want to go back. All the buildings are so bright and colourful, and there's markets, there's loads of vintage shops, there's art prints. It's honestly wonderful. So I got a little journal and I just want to have it to write down good memories in. Then I also did some reading, and then I decided to bring my sketchbook outside. I also got tired. I was literally drawing onto the pink blanket on the grass, and I got so tired. I was like, I'm going to bring out a little table, and I'm very glad I did because I was so much more comfortable and it made me want to stay outside so much longer. I am not used to painting outside or drawing outside, and the wind was really irritating me. Let me tell you, it was literally making my sketchbook move constantly, but it was an experience, and I was very much so in the moment, being outside, listening to the birds. I was literally touching the grass. It was honestly a vibe, especially when I knew I was like, I need to soak up the sun while I can. So I decided to draw some windows of London. So I live in the countryside in west of Ireland. It's very different to London, and I absolutely loved when I went over and I saw there were so many different types of buildings. I just love architecture and love looking at buildings, and I decided to just do some sketches of different types of windows. This is in my travel journal, and I kind of decided myself this summer that my travel journal didn't need to be so rigid, because I kind of had a format of how I would do my travel journal pages each time I went somewhere. But I don't really journal when I'm on my trip. I like to do it when I come back, and it'll be based off of photographs I've taken or memories I've had. And I had this format, and I kind of decided, you know what, I don't need a format. If I want to have a page where it's just drawing things that I liked in that country, I'm going to do that. Or I'm thinking maybe there might be some pages where I just do a little painting and make it like a postcard of that city. So I'm trying to loosen up a little bit and not be so rigid in this journal, because I'm not rigid in my other sketchbooks. So I don't know why I've put this expectation on this travel journal that needs to be perfect, but I'm trying to let that go. Normally I don't even use markers, but I decided, because I was outside, it was so windy, I was like, I am not painting. And I really liked how these turned out. They're quite simple. I think I'd like to do larger paintings of them, maybe of the buildings, in oils. I think that'd be brilliant. Next, we're moving on to still life painting. My younger brother, very sweet, got my mom these roses, and I decided to grab them for a while and do some painting. So I'm using gouache paints. I absolutely love gouache, and I actually forgot what I was going to say. I decided I was going to do like a really light kind of wash background and not worry too much about this being a detailed painting. So I moved the flowers over to the windowsill, as you saw, which is the opposite end of my room. And I kind of just wanted to focus on the shape of the flowers and just do something quite simple. I have barely worked in this sketchbook all summer. I think I've done maybe 3 paintings in it. So it's something I want to work on, that I just get my sketchbook out, and even if it's not anything detailed, even if I only have half an hour, that I just do something. And it doesn't matter if it has to be like loose and sketchy, that's what sketchbook's for. Again, not every painting needs to be perfect. I also have found from working in my sketchbook earlier in the year, I haven't done as much over the summer, but earlier in the year I was a bit more consistent, and I found that when I did more paintings, I was able to look back and see the paintings that I was like, yes, I'd love to make this into a larger oil scale painting, versus other ones that I was like, yeah, I'm not really mad about this, I don't want to make this into an oil painting. And then sometimes I just jump straight in and don't even use my sketchbook and do large paintings. But I do think there's a benefit to working in the sketchbook, because sometimes things happen that you don't expect, and then you can develop that piece of work, if that makes sense. I hope you don't mind, I'm going to talk a bit more about London while I paint this, because I'm basically painting leaves and you can see what's happening. I'm not going to go on a big rant about painting each leaf individually. I will mention one thing maybe, is that I love painting with tiny paintbrushes, and I used to feel really guilty about this, because when I was in school, my teacher always used to be like, oh yeah, use big paintbrushes, you need to use them. And I do use big paintbrushes when I'm creating large scale oil paintings. I love a massive paintbrush, and I think the brush strokes that you get with these big paintbrushes is really cool. But I also love using like teeny tiny paintbrushes. I just find them so fun, and I actually don't even care if it makes my painting take longer that I use a tiny paintbrush. I just enjoy using them, and I've come to accept that that is okay. That is what I like to use, and you don't have to use certain tools just because other people use them. You use whatever paintbrushes work for you. Anyway, back to London. As I said, Notting Hill, absolutely stunning. I have like a bank of photos in my camera roll that I want to work from. Okay, we're moving on to the peacock painting. Maybe I will get to go on a rant about London, but I suppose I should introduce this painting. I have been obsessed with peacocks since I was a little girl. I just find them so majestic. They are so beautiful and colourful. Their feathers are just fantastic, the colours in them. And I decided to do peacock painting. It's actually for my bathroom. There's currently a painting in my bathroom that I did when I was a teenager, and I hate this painting, and I was like, you know what? Let's change it up. Let's make a new painting for that space. So I decided I'd do a painting of a peacock because it's quite tranquil. I find them very peaceful, and it's going to sit above the bath, which I think is a perfect place for it, because I'm going to be getting ready for my bath, I'm going to be looking up at my peacock, and I'm going to be like, this is just calm energy. So when I was painting this, as you can see, there was a jump from basically the start of the painting to the full background being done. I realised I got into such a workflow painting. This was obviously painted over many days, so I'm not going to say it was painted in one go, but I got into such a workflow at the point where I was painting the background that I forgot to record it, and I was painting it for a few hours, and I layered and layered and layered. I did like an ochre color layer, and then I went in with white, and then I went in with purple, and it was all wet on wet paint, and I was layering it up, and that's basically how I created this kind of swirl or spiral effect in the background, and it was quite flowy, and honestly I loved how it turned out. And I do think there's benefits to filming my paintings, as you can tell, because I literally am watching it back myself. I love to see the process of how I got from certain places, but also I do think there's a beauty in just being in the moment painting and letting your ideas just flow. I actually, one of the days that I was in painting, I brought my phone, but I didn't realize I had no data left, so I couldn't even use my phone, and I painted in silence for hours, and it was the most focused I'd been. I didn't realize that I hadn't done that in so long. So from that point on, when I was painting this, I decided I'd only listen to instrumental piano music or silence. And I actually found I got into such a nice workflow painting, and this painting just developed really naturally. I loved how it turned out. This isn't even finished. I painted all these tiny little details, and I actually had to go back over them 3 times because obviously the ochre colour wasn't showing up brilliantly over that dark blue, so I had to layer that up a bunch of times. But yeah, I really think it was beneficial that I wasn't like watching videos or had podcasts on. I was just like in my own state of mind. I literally even put on, at one point I put on like a hypnosis music thing on Spotify, and it was like, do not drive while you listen to this, you may fall asleep. And I was like, I wonder, am I going to fall asleep while painting? It's okay, did not fall asleep while painting. And yeah, I just think this painting was all about kind of slow moments of layering up different colours and the patterns, and yeah, I just really loved it. Now I'm going to go on my little rant about London. So it was my second time in London. The first time I was there, I was a teenager, and I don't really remember it all that much, but this time I obviously went as an adult, and I think it's such a beautiful city. I was only there 2 nights and I already want to go back. I just think there's so much to do. I think the fact the weather was so nice did also help, but I literally want to go back to Notting Hill. I would love to just be able to go plein air painting in Notting Hill, even though I feel like the English would probably be like, no, you can't do that here. Or maybe Kensington Gardens. I don't know, I feel like it would be a vibe. This is the finished painting, by the way. I am very happy with how it turned out. I decided to add in dark green kind of swirls, kind of feather lines, and I added them in on the wing, and I think they came out so nice. I think they really contrast from that kind of creamy beige gold colours that I was going for. And I also think I was debating whether I would add more of a background, and I decided not to because I said I wanted the peacock to stand out. I wanted it to be the main event. This is it on my wall. I have a checkered wall, and I honestly think it looks amazing against this background. And once it's dry, I'll need to varnish it, and then I'll bring it out to my bathroom, and I'll probably show that at some stage in one of my next videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye!